Jules Dunham Howie, and I am the host of Her Voice. Today, we are pleased to welcome Senator Joan Carter Conway, who represents Baltimore City District 43. We have a great show today. Stay with us. Welcome back. Today I am so pleased to be joined by Senator Joan Carter Conway, who represents Baltimore City District 43.
Correct. I'm the resident senator for the 43rd District.
Senator, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Why don't you walk us through your resume?
Well, basically, I started a while ago. I was always a community leader. I worked under the War on Poverty, Model Cities War on Poverty. I worked in that program, and I've always, dealt with community, grassroots, and improving the quality of life of individuals in the communities. And from there, ultimately, I ran for city council, and I became the first woman in African American in the 3rd Councilmatic District to win a city council seat. And ironically, my senator left in the 43rd District. He retired, and I was unanimously elected by the State Central Committee to actually take a seat in 1997. And then after 97, of course, it was election after election, and my constituents have been very supportive of me. I have become the first woman in African American to ever chair a standing committee in the history of the Maryland General Assembly.
Wow, that's very impressive. So tell us, what actually interested you in politics?
Well, it was never an interest in politics. I always understood how the politics would play and impact those individuals who didn't have a voice. I never really wanted to be a politician, and I still, for lack of a better word, don't consider myself one. I consider myself an elected official, because elected officials, more so than anything, they deal with the issues and consistently try to resolve those issues to improve the quality of life of those high-risk groups who don't have a voice.
So now you've been in political office for how many years now?
Since 97, so we're 20th. Yeah, well, I came to the legislature in 1997, so this is my 20th year and 21st session.
And so now you're up for re-election, and why do you want to continue working for the city and the government?
Well, actually, I was really ready to go home. And it's not about Joan. If it was about Joan, Joan would have been gone a long time ago. But this is really a critical year for Baltimore City, for the district, because what we're looking at as a person in leadership, I have the privilege of controlling all of the policy bills that's going to deal with the Kerwin Commission. Then you have the upcoming redistricting, which the Senate is weighted in terms of what happens in redistricting. And it's just a number of things in terms of what's going on in Baltimore City with the Department of the DOJ consent decree, and just a number of things to help move Baltimore City along. So, I don't stay for Joan. I stay because of that leadership capability, because of the relationships that I have in the House and the Senate as being a person in leadership. And more so than anything, the 43rd District has been consistently blessed because we have 2 chairs. And I think we're the only district in the state that has 2 chairmanships in the same district.
That's wonderful. So what would you say has been your most important accomplishment during your political career?
Well, I think I probably had a few, but the one that I actually center on, and we're still working with it, is the historically black institutions in terms of the disparities over the years. And I probably put in almost every bill that I had placed in the legislature. And, they passed them, we had hearings on them and all of that. But it formed the foundation for the historically black colleges suit. And ultimately, we won that suit, of course. Just recently, the state had decided that they're going to appeal it, but it was just based on all of the bills and the disparities and the discrimination in terms of the duplication of programs and how it really, really hurt the historically black institutions. So that would be my issue.
And what does that mean monetarily for HBCUs?
Monetarily, over the years, just based on the duplication and actually, it was Fordyce, the box that I stood on, was a Supreme Court ruling of 1992 that said you could not duplicate unique programs of historically black colleges. So from the time that we put it in, it was probably the bills start coming in about 2003, 2005. So we're somewhere around 12 or 13 years down the road. So it's estimated that they owe us about $2.5 billion or more dollars to the historically black institutions.
Now that would be phenomenal.
Yes, it is.
I mean, phenomenal.
Yes, it is.
So tell us, what is your platform?
My platform is always going to be, and my priority will always be education. Education, education, and more education. And then the additional piece, when you look at education and you look at the crime elements and the criminal elements in Baltimore City and across our state, really it's about education. If the individuals are educated enough, the crime levels will go down, there'll be job opportunities, there will be employment. So it's always going to be education with me. It's going to be education. And, Baltimore City probably doesn't have the best physical school buildings. And that's another priority. When we start the 21st century schools, one of those greater accomplishments that people know that I consistently fight for quality education for our students. And when the $1 billion fell apart for the 21st century schools, they called me and asked me, we had resolved it in the Senate, but they called and asked that I come to the House to collaborate and compromise to get the bill passed, and that's what I did.
Excellent. What change are you hoping to make if you are reelected for another term?
Well, it's not so much change. If you really just deal with the issues at hand in terms of education, in terms of crime, in terms of stabilizing our communities, it's an ongoing process that you never really complete. You may get one issue resolved or one community resolved, and then there are developmental issues in terms of development in the district, in terms of educational issues, K-12 plus higher ed. So you just consistently deal with the issues as they come up, and hopefully you can resolve them. And everybody's not going to be happy about the end resolution of the issues, but it's a compromise that you have to make to get things done.
Well, that goes right to my next question. Can bipartisan partnerships work?
Oh, they do work. They do work. And here they work. They don't always work all the time because, we're just such a diversified state. You have Western Maryland, Eastern Shore, Baltimore City, suburban, rural, urban. And, we're not quite as bad as on Capitol Hill. It does come very partisan at times because it's not so much about being just partisan. It's about what those particular individuals want for their district as Republicans, and what we see, and the perception is very different, and our needs are different from theirs. So that's the issue more so than the partisan politics of it. It's about those senators advocating for the issues that their constituents like, and of course we're going to continue to advocate for the issues that our constituents are involved in and would like to see happen.
And there's an opportunity to sometimes bridge and find the middle ground.
Oh,
right?
we do,
Okay.
constantly. We do bridge and find the middle ground. And as the chair of Education, Health, and Environment, we consistently bridge and find the middle ground. We might not like the bill in the current drafted format, but you make those concessions and, you make the necessary amendments to try to accommodate and help the individuals in other parts of the state.
What do you think are the biggest opportunities for Baltimore City and the state of Maryland in the next 5 years?
Well, the biggest opportunities is the first and foremost, just with the help of the state legislature, is to get the Baltimore City schools to the place where they need to be in terms of the academic and curriculum issues on top of the capital projects improvements that we need to make to our school system. So there will be developmental issues in terms of the development and stabilization of Baltimore City, and we consistently as legislators, attempt to do that for Baltimore City. We have been consistently losing our tax base, and most individuals think we lose that tax base just based on the fact that it's crime. It's not crime first. It's always going to be education first, crime second, and the tax base is shrinking, and most people perceive that the reason why people leave Baltimore City is because of our high property tax rate. Not so. Education is the primary reason why we're losing our constituents and our residents of Baltimore City, because of the lack of the necessary tools that we need to have that quality education for our students.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that. That's a really good insight.
Yep.
So what keeps you up at night?
Not a thing. Not a thing. Nothing keeps me up at night. I'm not one that sleep a lot anyway, but they say I'm very cerebral. I'm always thinking how I can help somebody, what I can do to fix an issue, but I can look in the mirror every day and know that I have worked hard for my constituents, for Baltimore City and the state of Maryland.
So tell us, what is the most innovative idea that you've ever had, and what did you do with it?
Well, I don't necessarily call it innovative. The problem with me, most people say, is that I care too much about people. I work too hard for them. I stay stuck on those issues, those social justice issues, the anti-discrimination issues, and that's my focus: civil rights, social justice. So, I won't say that they're innovative, but we're still working towards the goal of getting many of those issues resolved. And you would not really, this day and time, you would not think that we were dealing with those same types of issues.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Welcome back. We're with Senator Joan Carter Conway. So, Senator, tell us, who is your personal hero?
For a long time, the person that I have always admired the most was Barbara Jordan. Barbara Jordan was the first African American to go to the Senate, the state Senate in Texas, and from there, she aspired and she went on to the U.S. House of Representatives as the first African American, not just woman, the first African American from a southern state, which was Texas, to go to Congress. So I have always admired her. She's just an orator. She was right on point. She was an attorney, and I just always admired Barbara Jordan. And then she had a tremendous disability, and she had all that energy and effort to still pursue the goals and stay the task.
Well, you hit it. Stay the task.
She did.
People have said that you're 20 years in, and they ask the question, is it time for you to shift? We have a lot of millennials that are coming up, and they're challenging, quite frankly, our seniors.
They are.
Our senior senators, our senior delegates. And the question is, is it time to step aside, or is there value in having the experience still at the table?
No, experience definitely matters. Leadership matters. And like I said earlier, I'm not trying to stay forever. I've been trying to leave here for quite a while. But it appears that just based on the leadership positions that we're in, and they don't really understand that they will be backseaters. They will not be in leadership. They will be just sitting there advocating the same way I did originally. You get a little bit done, but you get very little done when you're not in leadership. So, if that's what they want to do, like I said, it is America, it's a democracy. You do whatever it is that you need to do. But you need those experienced individuals who are in leadership, who have influence and can deliver. And fortunately, they need the experience to do that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't run. Sure, they should run. Their timing is a little off in terms of having the ability to deliver to the city based on those tremendous needs that we have at this time.
And this year there is an influx in women candidates for office. What do you think about the sisterhood and women jumping into the foray and wanting to be more
I'm impressed with it. There's very few women, and you just look at the state senate. Of course, there's more women in the House because it's more seats in the House. It's 141 seats in the House, and in the Senate it's only 47. So, it's very few women in the Senate. When you look, we are overwhelmingly outnumbered by our male counterparts. So I'm always very happy to see women come in, to run, to work hard, and to deliver. I'm always going to be happy about accomplished and intelligent women who want to be a part of the governmental system to provide those types of services to our constituents.
And what advice would you give to women candidates?
It's not easy when you're here with a bunch of guys. So, it's interesting. I find it really, really interesting because when you're passionate about something, many people misunderstand that passion to be anger. It's never anger. I mean, you can definitely get anger if you listen to some of the things that they say about gender-related issues or about ethnic minorities. It can kind of ruffle your feathers, but my issue is more passion about equalizing and leveling the playing field for all ethnic minorities and gender as it relates to gender. That's what I do. That's what I will continue to do. And I will always do that to improve the quality of life of those individuals who are negatively impacted by those discriminatory elements.
And it's interesting because we're in 2018, and yet discrimination is still alive, huh?
Alive and well. Alive and well. I mean, just look at what happened in Baltimore City in terms of the Department of Justice, the DOJ consent decrees. I mean, and just the discrimination overall, the sexual harassment pieces. It's always going to be an issue. And we need to stand fast and be consistently cognizant of that it really doesn't go away. You have to keep fighting until we just eliminate those discriminatory factors.
And so tell us, why should someone vote for you?
I think people, my constituents have been very, very supportive. They know how hard I work. They know what I do for the district. But it's not so much about my district as it is about Baltimore City and the needs that we have as a total city as opposed to the 43rd district. But my constituency have been more than supportive. They know who I am. They know what I do. They know how hard I fight. And then when there are issues in the district, I just kind of come in, talk to them about it. Many other issues, they pop up so fast. And people don't understand the process in Annapolis, because if there's an issue, I don't necessarily need your permission to put in the bill if it's requested, whether it's my bill or whomever, because there is much transparency here. You hear every word that we say in the chambers, you hear it in the hearing rooms, and you have an opportunity to come and support or be an opponent of the bill. So there's your transparency, and then we gauge based on the legislation that's before us, whether we pass it or whether it fails in committee, just based on lack of support for those types of issues.
So tell me, because that's fascinating to me. You know, a lot of people don't understand the legislative process.
No, they don't. They really don't.
And so what's an example of a bill that you may have put forth, but then you heard from constituency, and you said, my constituency is not going to support this, so you went a different direction?
Well, you do. I mean, it's just based on, and you don't have to be physically present. You know, suppose you say, well, I need you to put in a bill to turn the room purple. Okay, so I said, okay, that's your bill you requested. If you really want me to put in the bill, I'll put it in as a trial run. We'll have a hearing on the bill. People have an opportunity to come in, testify for the bill, opposed to the bill, contingent upon the testimony and what is said and what is done. Then the committee makes a determination that this bill's not ready for prime time. So, you know, we don't pass the bill out.
What are some of the things that we can do to actually help people in community become more engaged with the legislative process and understand the value of having a Senator Joan Carter Conway?
Well, you know, it's really not about Joan Carter Conway, but people need to understand. But ironically, it's 4 standing committees in the Senate. And I come with many, like I said, social issues, social bills or corrective bills as it relates to either something that had transpired in my district or Baltimore City as a whole. And they just don't understand. And the bills passed. They actually passed. But they said, well, Senator Conway, if there's such a need for this bill, where are all the people who want this bill? So that makes you have to advocate even harder to accomplish an objective to correct something that's happening in Baltimore City or in your district.
So what I hear you saying is that even if you know it's a major issue, if people don't come and let their voice be heard that this is an issue, then people question.
Sure, they question and it becomes more difficult. Although the bills have credence, they definitely have credence, but you know, it's harder. Because, you know, the chair of the other committee will say, okay, we understand the bill, you know, we understand why the bill is here, but if this bill is so needed, then where are your constituents? And it's different people, you know, sometimes you'll see a Conway bill and everybody just assumes it's a Joan Carter Conway bill. Not necessarily so. And many times you see by request they still feel, and because they don't understand the process, they still feel that it's my bill, or maybe the bill shouldn't have been entered. Well, you have a process. You have a right as a legislature to make the determination, personally or otherwise, to put in any bill, and then the community of those individuals impacted have a right to come and testify on the bill. Testify in person, testify in writing, call on the telephone. There are a number of ways to do it if you just can't be present at the hearing.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're here with Senator Carter Conway from Baltimore City. Senator, tell us about the legislation that you have in for this session.
Well, like I said, my primary objective is to improve the quality of education in Baltimore City. So we actually have, I have a lockbox bill, Senate Bill, I think it's 1122. Delegate Maggie McIntosh, who is my delegate in the 43rd, and she's the chair of appropriations, she's cross-filed it in the House. But basically what the bill does is it locks out the casino gambling, and it's actually a constitutional amendment. So because, in the past in the lottery, they said, oh, we're having the 3-digit lottery for education. But we got a little bit of money, and then somebody put an amendment on it, and they change it and send it somewhere else. So this specific bill says, look, we're locking the funds for casino gambling. It's placed in a lockbox. You get it's reserved specifically for education. You can't use it for anything else. It doesn't minimize or change the formula at this point. It gives us additional dollars on top of the formula dollars. So we're not supplanting the formula dollars. We still will get that. But it's additional monies to education based on the money that will be in the lockbox. It cannot be used for anything else. It's currently a constitutional amendment. In the past, they tell us, but then they'll put an amendment on it. But if it's a constitutional amendment, the money is designated specifically for that, cannot be moved until the state votes on another constitutional amendment.
Now, this sounds wonderful because what you're really doing is closing a loophole.
That's right. And there's been many loopholes, and they keep coming in. And see what happened in the past, the money goes to general fund. Because it goes as a result of the casino gambling, which we needed a constitutional amendment to actually have casino gambling in the state of Maryland. So because it was, and because this is the funds for it, we thought it was best for the constituencies to make a determination, and we locked the money out and designated it specifically for education and educational purposes alone.
I'm excited. Now, has that bill moved forward?
Yeah, believe it or not, the bill was on the floor today, Senate Bill 1122, and it was on third reader.
Oh, wonderful.
It's on third reader.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, last thing that I want to ask you is, why do you think you're most qualified, the most qualified candidate for
Well, in terms of, when you say most qualified, there are many brilliant people here. But in terms of the candidacy, I think that my constituents know, just based on leadership, based on the position that I'm in, to control the bills and to help Baltimore City, that experience and leadership does a lot more than having a candidate that will be sitting on the back seat and have to kind of make the adjustment. But they won't have the same influence at this point.
All right, well, this has just been phenomenal. I am so grateful that you joined us on Her Voice today.
Thank you.
And we wish you well as you move forward to become the senator of the 43rd District in Baltimore City.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Today was phenomenal, and we even had a chance to see the senator in action. Thank you so much.
All right.